What is going on, my Epictastic Nation? Welcome back to the channel. This is Joshua Drake, and I'm giving you guys my non-spoiler thoughts on Final Destination 6 Bloodlines. This is directed by Lipovsky and Adam Stein. This is also written by Guy Busick and Laurie Evans Taylor. And this stars Caitlin Santa-Joanna, Ted Briones, Richard Harmon, Breck Basinger, and Tony Todd. By a violent and recurring nightmare, a college student heads home to track down the one person who might be able to break the cycle of death and save her family from the grisly demise that inevitably waits them all. To say that Final Destination is one of my favorite horror movie franchises is quite an understatement. I remember as a kid, the first Final Destination movie I ever saw was Final Destination 2. And I've enjoyed Final Destination ever since. I went back to watch the first one. I thought the first one is very strong, and I still do. And it's been a while since I last rewatched these back in 2022. And I paced them out very well. In the last few years I watched it just because I thought this one was going to come out that year or such. But I am a really big fan of the Final Destination movies. I love the first two. The third one is my favorite one. The fifth one definitely got the franchise back on track, especially after that god-awful fourth one. So going into this one, I went into with some pretty interesting expectations. The trailers did a good job at giving me what I wanted to see, what I was coming, but what I didn't know was that they had a lot more surprises here that I want to see. But I was a little concerned because this was a 14-year absence between this one and the fifth one. And so I went into this excited, but seeing the buzz about it, I became a lot more interested in it. And I have to say, Final Destination Bloodlines definitely delivers. I'm not going to spoil anything because it just came out. This movie is killing it at the box office right now for the horror movie fans in the summer movie season. Starting off with the positives, of course, as I will say, this is another strong entry into the Final Destination franchise. It follows the formula of the Final Destination series, but it also manages to take the idea of the Final Destination and turn it on its head. Here, they try some new ideas here, which definitely is what a culmination of what makes the series everlasting and fun. And also, this has a lot of flavor when you want to continue a series. And the directors of this, Zach Lipovsky and Adam Stein, pulls this off in a way that you don't feel beaten with the over the head with references to the other movies. There are Final Destination references to the other movies here, but it is able to tell its own story in a way of what we're going on here. Like the family dynamics here, and I really enjoyed what this story has to offer. Of course, you have a character here that has to bring some new interesting moments in here. I like the new rules that they have about family bloodlines that I really think is creative, and I think this is a much needed fresh rule that makes this stand out among a lot of the other ones. And it feels very fresh and friendly new. Does a lot of interesting things that makes it all worthwhile. And so what I really enjoy about the story here is even though you care a lot about this family dynamic and what's going on here, I think is really well made to see what you're going with here. And so I quite liked a lot of what this had to offer. So that's what I really quite enjoyed about it. I also really like the fact that you have these new set of characters here, and they're not some of my favorites in this franchise. We've had Devon Sawa in the first movie, we had Mary Elizabeth Winstead in the third movie, and we had Nicholas D'Agosto in the fifth movie, and AJ Cook in the second one. But compared to the character in the fourth movie, I will say these are some of the strongest characters in this Final Destination world. Here we have, of course, an emotional story that you have this main girl played by Caitlin Santa-Joanna, who does a very strong job in the movie, as Stephanie. She's trying to have stopped this cycle of death, because when you find out things about this family that you're not supposed to find out, which I don't want to spoil what it is that you exactly find out, whatever, I have to say the way it's done. When you find out things about the family that's connected to the grandmother character, who's played in flashbacks by Brett Basinger, you get to know a lot of what it goes on there. And that's what I really liked when it comes to it here. It's some interesting moments here, and I definitely really have some tension filled moments here. Like, you care about this family dynamic. Most of them, not so much when it comes to some characters, like, of course, Julia, and there's a few of these other characters. But I will say overall, I did like these characters a lot, and they did do their great job in making this worthwhile. So I definitely really like the fact these characters definitely stood out on their own. And also, I will say, besides direction and such, the writing is actually really strong here. Of course, there are some moments of dialogue and there's some characters here, again, which is obvious for a Final Destination film, because this is something you kind of have to play with ever since the first one. You're always going to have some characters that are not so liked. But I think the way it's done here is handled with some good respect, and it makes it very interesting. So I definitely really quite enjoyed a lot of that side of things, and I very much thought it very much worked out in the favor. So it was really awesome the way they were able to handle that. Acting wise, everyone in the movie does a good job. I was really impressed with Caitlin Santa Juana as Stephanie and Tiana Briones as Charlie Reyes. I think they are some of the best characters in this franchise. I thought they also really did a strong job here as well. Each of them has to deal with the situation in their own way, but I think the way they play it, and they have good chemistry with each other. Richard Harmon, he was definitely a standout as Eric. At first, he is the character who's like, I don't believe any of this, you're crazy. But as the movie went on, I was starting to really like his character. And when he gets his comeuppance, it is sad to watch, but I will say I did like his character. The rest of the cast in this movie, like Owen Patrick Jones, Ryan Kilhist, Gabrielle Rose, and Brett Basinger, who plays Iris, of course, they all do a very strong job in the movie, and I think everyone really does a good job. And while we're touching on the subject of acting, we do have to bring it up because this is an inevitable thing I have to talk about. This is also the final movie for Tony Todd, as this was his last completed movie before he passed away last year of cancer. And it's great to see him back as Mr. William Bloodworth. Always great to see Tony Todd. The man was a great actor in the movies that he did. He created an iconic horror villain in the 90s, of course. If you know, you know. But this was his last movie, as he was dealing with cancer at the time, one of his last completed projects. And I would say, for his one scene and for his last appearance in this movie, I will say his his scene was very nice to see. It's sad watching him because you know what's coming, and everyone knew this while they were making the movie. But the way they handle his character and give him some backstory, and what they do with him is is very surprising as well, and it's handled with some nice dignity. It does suck that he's no longer with us, but he went out in style. And he always is a reminder in these movies that death does not like to be cheated. I also, from a technical standpoint, I think this movie is very well done. For a $50 million, the money is on the screen. It's good money that they put into this. The fact that this was supposed to be an HBO Max movie at the time before they decided to put this out in theaters. It's a miracle that this was not an HBO Max theatrical release, but because the technical aspects, this is something, even if you're not the biggest fan of the Final Destination franchise, you definitely can see the way it feels from a filmmaking perspective. The cinematography, the visual effects, production design looks very well done. If you come in to get the kills, you're definitely getting your Final Destination kills. So there is that. And the kills, there's some good practical stuff, but there is some moments of CGI, but it's the good CGI, like it used in Final Destination 5. Not the crappy CGI in Final Destination 4. I'd say the score is actually really well done. I really like the score here, but also the way they choose to have some classic songs here. There is one moment in this movie, in one of the kills, where I was just laughing hysterically. It's stupid, but the way this song is incorporated into one of the kills by Kelly Clarkson, I was laughing. Also, this is some of the funniest moments in here. They like to play with that traditional dark Final Destination humor, so there's that. In terms of a few issues, there are a few issues here with some of these characters I don't really care much about. That is one of the more bigger complaints I have. Is some characters here I just didn't really like, or they just felt like I didn't get as much time with them as I should have for an hour and 49 minutes. There's a little bit of writing issues here and some logic here where you kind of have to suspend your disbelief, but that is also another small gripe. And the ending of this movie is obvious, since if you've seen a Final Destination movie, you know how this goes. You save almost everyone off the list, everyone dies, and then when you get to the ending, the ones who were supposed to die dies last. So even if you try to fight off the inevitable, it's just something that inevitably is going to happen. But in conclusion, I thought Final Destination Bloodlines is one of the better movies in this franchise. It's one of the better horror movies, sequels, and this is a very strong legacy sequel. Now, I would be curious to see how they do it continuing forward, since they can explore some more timelines and such, or some more ideas if you keep it fresh and new and invent some rules. But if this was the last Final Destination movie, especially with Tony Todd no longer there, which is always going to be a crippling blow now, which is not the fault. If this was the last one in the franchise, I would be okay. But the fact that this is doing so well and it's getting people talking about Final Destination, I wouldn't be surprised if there's another film in the series. But just don't stretch it out to like Fast and Furious lengths, where Fast and Furious is just never going to freaking end. I'm going to go ahead and give this one an Epictastic, and a better than Vampire Diaries. Those are my thoughts on Final Destination Bloodlines. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Or is somewhere right in the middle? All my social media links are in the description box down below, as well as my Chime and my Cash App, or my Amazon wish list if you'd like to send me anything there. As always, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to get notified when videos are up. As always, stay epitastic, join the epitasticness, acknowledge me, and you guys keep it cool. Well, that's going to do it for the video that you just watched. If you want to see more, my channel icon is up here. If you want to see more content from me, all my social medias are right here in this end card. I will also leave a playlist and a video here for you to see what the channel is about. As always, acknowledge me, stay epitastic, join the epitasticness, and you guys keep it cool.